All right. We'll call to order the October 26th meeting of the Tecumseh Board of Education. Reading the Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be Rebecca Brooks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on our agenda, good news. Ms. Mills?
We do have some good news. One is really good, and one's just not great news for us, but certainly good for the person involved. Let's first start with an introduction of our communications director, Victor Pratt. Victor has been a producer with Channel 11 out of Toledo. Has a lot of nice experience that's, I know, going to be beneficial to the district, and will keep me off of Facebook. So I appreciate that for sure. He'll be taking over, getting the website and the new app running and working and updated and so on and so forth. Right now, we've spent very little time paying attention to the website. And we've also, unfortunately, spent very little time with promotion, public relations. And that's where we're going to rely on his skills and positive energy to enhance what we're doing. We have, like most places, fallen into crisis mode. And it's time to start pushing out to people the great things that are still happening in our classrooms. So welcome, Victor. We appreciate you being here tonight and look forward to your work.
Welcome.
When does he start?
Monday? Yeah.
Right. Awesome.
Next Monday.
Next month.
And then Mr. Mills, please rise.
Ooh.
We don't have a formal presentation planned for Griff tonight, but as everybody in the room, maybe aside from Victor, knows, Griff has for a little while been looking around for an opportunity as a superintendent, and finally has found a match after a couple of different searches, and Taylor Community Schools will be getting one of the best at what he does. And he starts there a week from Monday. This Friday will be his last day with Tecumseh Public Schools after 16 plus years in administration as an athletic director and high school principal. And, I sometimes get, thanked or recognized for my ability to be calm under pressure, but I've absolutely met my match in Griff. He has the perfect temperament for what it takes to do this job. Level-headed, calm, collaborative, and just treats people the way that they should be treated. So we're going to miss that in Tecumseh, absolutely. You can't replace those intangibles, but we certainly are happy that another community will benefit from the things that Griff brings to the table. And we thank you very much for the contribution that you've made to our kids and our families in Tecumseh. And I would say it's probably worth taking the opportunity for anyone from the board or the administration that would want to add any public comments to what I've already said for Griff.
Griff, I think on my behalf, certainly, and probably the sentiment of the board, we are elated that you have found an avenue for the ascension of your career. We recognize that it's a loss to Tecumseh, but we also recognize that you have earned this, and it's something that we can't offer you in the short term. So It is our loss, but we are elated for you. Congratulations.
That really sums it up. It's a terrible loss for us, but we are so happy for you. I hope you and your family. It's an opportunity you wouldn't have had here for a while. So it's awesome that you were able to find one, and I think it's going to be a really good match for you.
I just want to say thanks too. I've known Griff forever. I was on the school
Mm-hmm.
board years ago with him, and he had to put up with my kids coming through this school and acting like their mother. It was great. You're a good guy. Thank you.
Well, thanks. You know, it was the only reason I came back on the board was to work with you. So thank you. But actually, you know, I've known you when you first came as the principal of the high school, and you've done a great job, and you are going to be missed.
I just want to say thanks, Griff, for everything you've done. You're definitely going to be missed, and that door is closing behind you, so you can't leave. But and didn't you try to get like a ball and chain on him or something?
I got about 3 days left before I come up with something.
Taylor is going to be very happy. You know, so you're going to do a great job there. So, you know, I know you will. So,
I guess what I would say is just thank you. Thank you to the board, people over 16 years, people I've got to work with. It's just phenomenal. You guys have been patient with me. You give me grace. I'm somebody that if I make a mistake, I call it out and try to make it better. And I appreciate everyone's support of that. This place is wonderful. The one thing over 16 years I can say about the Dunsey is we always bounce back. We've had tough things happen throughout all my 16 years, whatever it is, whether it's a death or there's whatever it is. But this place always bounces back. And that comes back to the thread of people that live here and work here. And so this place will always be home for me. All three of my kids graduate from here. The other thing I would ask is when people leave a place, blame me for anything, that's fine. That happens too. But don't let somebody turn this into something that it's not. I mean, this is not me looking to leave here because I'm mad or anything like that. So if you ever hear anybody try to make it something that it's not, please stop right now. The only reason I'm leaving is because the consultant called me. I wasn't even looking for a job. This is not the opportunity time to be any place. And a consultant reached out to me, and I just felt led to look into it. That's the only way I can really explain it. And it's just kind of fallen into place. And then the last key, I don't know if God was talking to me or not, their mascot is the Griffin. Yeah, I'm listening. No job is easy. Anytime you deal with a lot of people, or people in general. And so I have great memories of this place, and it always will. So from me and my family, thank you to all of you guys. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks, Griff.
Thank you.
Thank you, Griff.
we're going to need the number of that consultant. Dolson, you're on it. All right.
All right, that'll bring us to our public comment on agenda items only. I see none of the administrators want to comment. All right. We are on to approval of the agenda. Do we have any revisions for the agenda? See, there's quiet in here. Could I get a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Support.
Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The agenda is approved as written. Scheduled reports. First scheduled report is the extended continuity of learning plan. Mr. Hilderly.
Okay, so this is our first opportunity for the board to recertify the extended continuity of learning plan. Part of that legislation says that each school board, originally they said every 30 days, but they revised that, and now it's monthly. Each board in Michigan will recertify the plan, and if there's going to be any changes into how things are offered to the plan, that would be the opportunity for the board to do that. We're currently offering instruction in 3 different forms: our virtual academy, our distance learning, and live instruction. Right now, live instruction is a hybrid blend of the distance learning and face-to-face instruction. So it qualifies as one of the two things or a blend of the two things. So any discussion about that? We can certainly entertain that if you would like to, but later on in the agenda, there will be an opportunity to vote on recertifying the continuity of learning plan. And then along with that, the board needs to take a look at the two-way communication for pupil accounting that is attached to your packet. I think it has the first 5 weeks data. The second page, if you drop down, the second page has the weekly totals, and then the main page has our monthly totals in there. So for pupil accounting, we need to have 75% attendance, and our numbers have been in the 90s. So two-way communication is happening. We still have a number of families that we're not able to reach that number with, but we continue to make our attempts and document those attempts or failures. But in terms of how we're accounting for those students, that's the information that is in your packet. One having to do with the extended continuity of learning plan, and then also the pupil accounting two-way communication plan. So we could talk about questions now. I think probably the more appropriate time is when a motion is made under action items. And then if you have questions at that time, we could discuss those.
Just a quick clarification on the second page here, the percentage. There seems to be some column blending here, but the percentage that are attending, we're looking at close to 99% since the beginning of school year, right, on an average?
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
It's the pupil accounting and figuring out the blend for the budget are they're two things we've never seen before in public schools. So we're just getting used to it, and it's going okay. It appears as though we're making the threshold of where we're supposed to be. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing.
And so I guess, can you go in a little bit more deep? So it did meet two-way requirement? Does that mean that we saw the student 2 times, or what does some of this stuff mean? I guess I don't.
Two-way interaction rates can be based on eye-to-eye, phone contact.
Okay.
Turning in a homework assignment can work as an interaction.
Okay.
So there's a few bullet points of things that count as an interaction. It isn't necessarily a face-to-face. So it's actually fairly easy to achieve those things if you're just making the effort. And of course, our people are making that effort.
So these ones that are not meeting the requirement, I mean, are they registered with the school, but they're basically sitting at home doing nothing?
Registered with the school. Many of them, and Mr. Dolson and I had a conversation about this last week. Many of them are in the virtual academy, and when we do make contact with them, they tell us that they're working on it, or they have connectivity problems, and right now they're doing other things to support learning at home. They're not interacting with our curriculum, but they're doing something. So a lot of the people that we communicate with or try to communicate with that we're not meeting the two-way communication requirements for, they're being very vague in their responses to us. So It's got to be more than just, hey, how are things going? There has to be some kind of exchange of work or information or in-depth conversation about the curriculum. And there's just a few of our people who were not getting that consistently.
That said, we do have to clarify that last week we had a 99.02 participation rate. And, so you're looking at maybe 24 kids across the entire district who fall into that need more face time or need more effort category. We're
Right.
not talking about a large group of kids at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just adding up though the September dates that you got here in 98, 98, 97, 99. And then when you see the page above it, I don't know where the numbers come in, but 93. I mean,
Mhm.
it's kind of weird that you're in the 98s and then up here in September you're at 93.
Yeah, it's as if, and I'm not the pupil accounting expert, but the 179 is kind of a cumulative total of all of the weeks of September.
Odd.
And then that's divided and gives you the 93% total. So the 93% is what we have to report to the state because it's got to be monthly. But the second page is the weekly interaction. So weekly, those are the actual numbers. We're communicating with 97% or better on a weekly basis. When you tally that by the month in September, there were 179 opportunities that we weren't able to connect. And some of those are the same families.
This is, I assume, a formula that was put forth to us by the state that we're using.
Absolutely it was.
That's what I figured. Makes perfect sense now. Okay.
So, I mean, we're troubled by the people that we're not communicating with on a regular basis, but we're well over the 75% requirement. So in terms of, meeting the threshold, we're there.
And more importantly, we're communicating with those people and trying to get that train rolling.
We are.
Okay.
Then we have a resolution regarding the Open Meetings Act. This was a special release by Neola, who provides our policy for us. So we wanted to bring that to your attention. Open it up here.
So that means that we could have a Zoom meeting and you can vote even though you're not in person?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the Open Meetings Act resolution that says the different ways that your meetings can take place, and somebody can remote in and all of the questions that you might have about how it works. President Johnson and I had a conversation a couple of times last week about we've had some glitches with having the hybrid type meeting. So he and I agreed that we would try to do everything in person with the live stream and not have members remote in.
Right.
Just became a little clunky. And as long as we can achieve a quorum, I think that we're going to move forward under those circumstances. But this Open Meetings Act resolution does allow for a waiver until the pandemic has subsided.
If for any reason that the in-person meetings become less than convenient, we can of course go to a Zoom, but we just want to avoid that hybrid. The workload here and out there on Devon's end is high enough that I'm partially detached from the meeting. And at the same time, it's just not going smoothly for all the people at home watching it on the live stream. So it's, I think we'll just nix that. We'll either go full virtual or full in person. And this is nothing more than accepting the law we're told that we're going to follow, right?
Correct.
Right.
It's just recognizing the fact that the
The-
Open Meetings Act has been amended.
That wraps up the scheduled reports. We have some discussion items. First, we have a $50 anonymous donation to our food program. Do you have the details on that, Mr. Hilderly?
From time to time, the district receives donations from anonymous community members who would like to catch up any delinquent accounts in the food service program. And right now, we don't have any. So we're just going to let that ride, and it'll soak up what it does over time. But we thank the community member and encourage anyone who has the means and desire to continue those donations.
All right, now we have the 2020 and 2021 first budget revisions. Is this you or Kelly?
I will just make one comment on it. I have included it in some of our updates. We have the revisions. We're just going to hold our cards a little longer maybe than we had originally reported, just because we really want to make sure that our pupil accounting is accurate. As I mentioned, with the differences in pupil accounting and the different blend for how the budget works this year, it's quite a delicate formula. And we don't, with a couple of exceptions, there are things in the budget that don't necessarily have to be done immediately. So it'll come back up next meeting as an action item, but we may ask for a delay in that action. And it may just be another discussion item next time as we update you. So that's the justification for it. There isn't really a rush right now. And we want to make sure that we have everything as accurate as we can. There are two places in the budget that are a little more urgent in terms of hiring for the technology department. However, what we're planning to do is post the positions and interview. And if the budget is amended and we can make those hires, then we'll be ready immediately. And that whole process is going to take us 2 or 3 weeks anyway. So we can get through that. And then the other one would be the allocation for CLC, which our contribution to them is very meaningful to them because it's roughly a third of their annual operating budget. So the longer they wait, the harder it is for them. But I've had that conversation with Heather, and she understands. If the board has to wait, then we wait. Kelly, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just reiterate what Rick said. It's this year's pupil accounting is different than it's ever been in my experience with the super blend and how they're counting for the 2-week communications is new for many school districts. And just having that required documentation in place that we could count every single child is just critical. The budget, estimated budget that's in front of you is based on a basic assumption that, we have as many students this fall as we had the prior fall. That truly is the case, but we have to count them differently this year. And that two-way communication is critical. Just like on the document we just reviewed a few minutes ago, there were 35 students in the first week of count that we don't have the two-way communications. Now, that doesn't mean we don't get to count them. There's other ways that we can count, but we just have to make sure then that documentation's in place so that we can count them. And that, that takes time. So that's what we're gathering. Tomorrow ends the 3rd week of the count period. There's 1 more week, and then we have our final number.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yep. And if we do feel good about it, come the first meeting in November, then we'll make a recommendation. But we may actually just push it back another couple of weeks if we need the time. So just advising the board that it would vary from our normal process of discussion one meeting, action the next.
All right, last discussion item is the purchase agreement for the old admin building.
After the discussion from last meeting, I worked with our attorney to return the purchase agreement with an amended price of $30,000. We talked a little bit about putting in some language about them being responsible for utility costs and things like that, but their advice was to just ask for a higher purchase price and then take your savings from that. So the purchase agreement is in your hands with the adjusted price that Water Group has agreed to of $30,000 for purchase. I did have some conversation with board members, and one in particular had some questions, and I want to address those questions with the full board. There was a question about whether or not the board could impose any deed restrictions so that the buyer could not resell the property for another educational purpose. And I'm advised that we are not allowed to impose any deed restrictions. So we would not be able to put a stipulation on there that would disallow them from deciding that they don't want the building anymore and then selling it to a place that would use it as a school. Highly unlikely,
Yeah, I was just.
given the
Yeah.
condition of that building.
Schools
Yeah.
don't have that kind of money to
Um,
redevelop.
But it was the question was asked, and that was the response that I got. We can. I was asked if we could put a stipulation in there that the building not be tore down if they decide that the project is not what they expected, and that is something that we could impose in the agreement. We could say that the board would not allow them to tear the building down. And they would have to agree to it in the purchase agreement. And I was also asked if the good faith deposit could be non-refundable. Right now, it expires, I think, at sometime in February. But I was asked if we could make that immediately non-refundable. The answer to that question is yes, the board can do that if you wish. So those were the three questions that I was asked to get more information about, and those are the answers.
Isn't it like a regular, like when you sell your house, when you're selling a building, somebody makes you an offer and you agree and then they buy it.
Right.
And within 30 days, it's theirs.
This won't be 30 days because there's due diligence, because it's different than a residential building. And
So there's inspections and things like that.
and yes,
And those
There's
take 3
funding.
months or they can.
Most of
funding.
the
They have to get-
inspection language has been waived. What they're going to want to wait for is the
Funding.
tax credit grant opportunity that comes up in February. And if they don't get the credit grants for the property, they'll waive off the sale.
Okay.
Because they won't have an ability to do the renovations. Now, they're very happy with the way that the building scores for the grant credits, and they're optimistic that this time around things are going to work out. But there is a stipulation in the agreement that says if they don't get their
And
grants
they'll know that in February.
in February, then they will nullify the sale. So it
And there's
could,
enough in there to cover the utilities for those 3 months or.
if the board wanted to stipulate that the good faith money was non-refundable immediately, then that could be used to defray some of our costs. Our costs, now we've generated a cost estimation actually based on Nikki's numbers from last year that was around $40,000. But that was assuming that there were occupants in the building. So it's a little more difficult to estimate, what it's going to cost to keep that place at 50 degrees. And,
No cleaning services or anything
no
like that.
custodial. We're not running any water. We're not using any electric.
It's winter, so you don't have to mow.
Yeah, I
still
mean,
have to
we'll have to clear the sidewalks, but we wouldn't necessarily have to push the whole snow driveway,
Right.
just enough maybe to get a truck in and out for maintenance. But roughly half of that 40,000 number, and that's an annual cost. So if you broke it down monthly, yeah,
1,500
$3
or
grand.
something.
yeah,
Just over
something like
$3
that.
grand.
Yeah. Now you mentioned about that it wouldn't be torn down. I don't remember. I thought when they said the original, if they weren't interested in the narthex, not the narthex, the annex, that they were going to take that out. Is that what I'm hearing?
That was another thing that they're looking into. They have to make sure that they aren't violating any, historical declaration by tearing down the annex, because that's not a part of what they want in the development. They just want the original building.
Right. I mean,
What
that
is
was
the annex?
where we
That-
used to meet.
Oh, that
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
little
which
addition
was
in there.
That was added on
Yeah.
several
On-
years later, and they don't anticipate any problems violating any zoning or anything like that if they decide. that
Okay,
they
so
wanna
I mean,
tear
we're
it
not stipulating that they can't tear down that part. We're just saying not the original
down,
structure.
the old
Right.
original structure.
Okay, and then one of the questions last time was, how much is it going to cost us on our end to deal with the lawyers for the sale of it?
We've probably spent about what we're going to spend in having this purchase agreement brokered. From here out, everything has to be done by their people.
Okay, so
we may have
how much did we spend?
we've got a couple hours in legal fees.
Okay, so how much? I mean,
So
what are they
I'm
charging
going to
us?
say maybe $1,500
Okay,
that we've invested so far.
I mean, just as long as we're going to get something out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
like I say, the everything everybody else talks about is we could have sold it for a heck of a lot more back
Yeah.
ways.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
Coulda,
Yeah.
woulda, shoulda.
Yeah.
And one of the things was, as I remember, exactly the question that was asked earlier was the fear that somebody would come in and put a school in there, and they're this trying to make sure that didn't happen.
Yeah, but I'm with
That-
Rick.
that
Nobody
was
would
part
want
of-
that
That was
building.
part of the holdup on the last time around.
Yeah, and I'm advised that is not part of a
Yep.
deed restriction that we can stipulate. So we just have to gamble that they're going to do with it what they say they want to do, which is turn it into housing.
Who advised that?
Troon,
Okay.
Gordon Van Weeren is their property transfer guy. So that's the offer that's on the table. If the board would like me to make any of those stipulations that I mentioned that are allowable, that would be any part of any motion. If you want to stipulate that the good faith money is immediately non-refundable, or if you want to stipulate that
How much is the good faith money?
3,000.
I think that's fair.
My question on that would be, so typically, if you're going to alter this purchase agreement to change it so the EMD is non-refundable, is that going to be an addendum that we have to present to them that they have to agree to? It doesn't seem at
They
this
would have
point.
to agree to that, yes.
Yeah.
It would be.
It's not just something we can just say that and
a
make it
counter
so.
to the counter offer,
Okay.
yep.
So it would be an addendum to the purchase agreement that they'd have to agree to. But I mean, it seems reasonable. The
Right,
worst they
we
can
were
say
like
is
holding
no,
it
right?
for 3 months for them.
Well, if they do say no, if we're counter offer, well, I guess it's essentially it's another offer. Aren't
Right,
we
they
on a
could say no, and
timeline
then we'd have to
here?
regroup.
You
and
are
then-
opening the contract anytime you make an addendum.
Right,
like that.
so we run the risk of our timeline. What was our timeline on this? Didn't we have to get something done this month still?
Yeah, they want to, they have to have something posted in the newspaper because they have to get it rezoned. And there has to be a 15-day notice in the newspaper prior to the first hearing on that rezoning. So the zoning commission will meet in a little over 2 weeks. And that timeline starts tomorrow in order to get that in the newspaper and have that meeting requested for the community to be able to consider attending. So that's the timeline is really somebody else's, not ours.
Mhm.
But our need is to help them get their timeline started.
So the question we'll have to ask is it worth the risk disrupting the timeline
I don't
just
know
to
that
put
it
in a
will.
stipulation that it's non-refundable or not?
Right.
That's the only risk putting that in.
The other thing is, they turn it down and we're out again, and they're not
Right.
going to come back.
Yeah, we
So-
don't want to open it up and then
And
walk.
They
that's for
they
sure.
offered 10. Rick countered at 30.
Right, that's
We
true.
got an offer of 30.
Yeah,
I think we just count
We're
our
this far
blessings.
along.
I think
Right.
we just count our
Yeah.
blessings here and
But,
get
but I
this
mean, the
thing closed.
destruction of the property, you said it still has to go before the zoning board, and they may, aren't they gonna be in the way of it because historic building or something like that? Aren't they gonna be the ones
The city's pretty confident that
that they're not gonna allow it? I
They're
mean,
ready
not
to
that
move
we're not gonna
forward.
allow it,
No,
they're not gonna
The
allow
city's
it.
pretty confident they're
they're
okay
confident
with the
that this
annex.
will be a good sale.
Yes.
Okay.
They understand that.
So maybe we're
Um,
worried too much about details here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
The city's pretty confident that we're doing the right thing by providing something for a developer who's going to repurpose the building, and it's not going to sit vacant.
Right.
3,000 isn't gonna stop,
No.
do much. I mean,
No.
again, if they weren't even in the picture, we'd still have the building, still paying the 40,000 a year
Right.
to keep whatever little amount of money it is to keep it heated or whatever.
Exactly.
So you're right, we're kind of behind the timeline. If they were sitting across the table negotiating with us right now,
Right.
it'd be no problem.
Right. My recommendation is to approve the agreement as it is. I wanted to bring that information to you because it was asked by another board member to get that information. So it was important, I think, to have that discussion. My recommendation remains to approve the agreement as
As written.
And I think we also need to thank the city here
Yep.
because they rezoned this area for this special need that can be done. I think they spent close to $10,000 to get rezoning and so forth done to make this happen.
That's what it costs the city.
Pardon me?
That's what it costs the
We
city.
appreciate all the effort
Yeah.
that they put into this to make it happen.
Right.
$10,000 for them?
And they're not,
They've got to hire outside companies to
It's
come in.
part
and
of
do
a
it, so-
is it revitalization?
Yes.
Yeah,
Is that
revitalization.
grant money for them too then, or no? For the
Yeah.
city?
I'm out on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But again, I think we need to thank them for
Yeah.
doing what they did because
Absolutely.
we wouldn't be in this position if they didn't.
right,
So,
they're-
There's-
they didn't have any responsibility in brokering the sale, but
No.
since I brought it up with the city, they've been supportive and helpful the whole way. And
And we appreciate it.
can't say enough good about them.
And I think that we also have to recognize that that building with no occupants, the electricity usage is a couple of night lights essentially, some outdoor lights.
Right.
Down at 50, it might cost us $1,000 a month just to have it sit there
Mhm.
idle.
Mhm.
So I think that the risk of having it sit there and something happening to the sale is much lower, even in the winter months.
Right.
Okay, there's not a huge financial risk to it. I don't think making the making the $3,000 non-refundable, I don't think will be a significant factor for us either.
Right.
It will become non-refundable once they are approved for their grant.
Right.
So there'll be a point in time when it does kick in. We're just asking. The question was asked about the next 3 or 4 months.
And
So
I
for the
think
best.
Ed made mention of previous offers for it.
Oh, yeah.
I've fielded some comments from out in the community. The other offers were, well, years ago, honestly.
Right, right.
It was long before this board was seated. So we're over 2 years, 3 years, 4, whatever it was, and they were competitive offers. There was more than one person interested in it making an offer, and the landscape has changed significantly since then. The world has changed significantly. I mean, right now, what used to cost $1.97 at the store for a 2x4 is up to about $10. So there's a lot that's changed. So we have one person who's interested, and I think we have to just leave the past as that would have been nice years ago, but it's not the reality today.
And I think it's worth mentioning in this forum that there was, all along, there was a thought that when that building sold, that the central office needed to be moved to the high school.
Mhm.
And the renovation cost for that was going to be around $300,000.
That's crazy.
And I've seen the plans, and they were great plans, and they dedicated office space and had to rerun ductwork and electrical and all the things that would go into a renovation. And we didn't spend that. We simply settled in these offices, and the counseling department and the TVA resettled themselves by moving some furniture around and being creative. And you know, there's a savings there realistically. When you look at the historical plan for that sale and that move, we didn't spend the money to do that. We've spent about 1% of that so far in readying our move over here to the offices. So I guess if I had to justify the argument, that's one of the key things that I would tell people, that even in the days when the price was higher, the plan was to reinvest that money into a development here at the high school that now hasn't happened.
So you do appreciate working out of a closet, right? Yeah,
Whatever,
that's fine. Yeah.
whatever it takes.
We appreciate your
That's how you
modest
save the
office
money.
That's
requirements.
right.
Yes.
We're very happy here.
All right. Any other discussion? No. That'll move us right into our action items for tonight. Ms. Brooks.
I hereby move to accept with thanks the $50 anonymous donation, which will be applied to the food service program to help with student balances.
Support.
Roll call. Tim.
Aye.
Ed.
Yes. Aye.
Suzanne.
Aye.
Becky.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Unanimously accepted.
Ready to move on?
Ready?
Okay. I hereby move to accept and approve the resolution regarding the Open Meetings Act as recommended by Neola and as attached.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Tim.
Can we have just some discussion on that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I was reading a letter from Troon, and I don't know if we should put this in our bylaws or not, because essentially it says that what Troon's opinion is that can the board require the public to register to attend in person or virtual a board meeting? No. So I don't know how you could do a virtual board meeting without somebody registering.
I talked to the attorneys about that. We don't require it to attend, but we do require they get an access code. So they're not registering it to attend the meeting. It's only to speak at the meeting.
I know, but it says you cannot require members of the public to register or otherwise provide their names or any other information as a condition of attending a public meeting.
Right.
Right.
And it's not to attend it. Attend it is live streamed.
Well-
Anybody can sign into it. The difference is the attending is the specific thing there.
Well,
When we have them,
when
we're
they're-
not having them register to comment. We're having them contact us to give the access code. So we're not broadcasting a Zoom access code and anybody can join the meeting at any time.
Okay, well, I'm just, how are you going to give them that access code if you don't know who they are?
Well, so, I mean, it's the way we did the Zoom meetings during the shutdown.
If we're not going to do it, well, then why put this policy in there?
Well, I mean, I think it's there in case all heck breaks loose.
I
okay?
think the
And we could still
reason,
do that,
It's not.
you know, we're still following the state law, but
I
I'm
think what it really
concerned-
is just acknowledging
excuse
the
me,
change.
Excuse me. I'm concerned here that we're going to be breaking the law by having a virtual meeting if someone wants to speak at that virtual meeting. So, and Troon here is saying that they cannot register. So how are they going to get a code or an access without registering?
We went through this when we did the original virtual meetings. And True
so
was
how did they do that?
contacted, so were the other attorneys, and they said the difference is you cannot have them register to attend it. That is wide open. But if they want to speak at the meeting, they can contact you and get an access code. That is perfectly allowable. And technically, we're not registering them for it. I call it registrants for lack of a better word.
Well,
What we're having them do is just get the access code to speak.
Well, that's not what this is saying, Kevin. So, because you'd have to get their information to be able to give them an access code. And this says you are not allowed that information. So they'd have to contact you in order to get an access code. This right here from Truman says, no, you can't do that. So,
Well, it's how Truman had directed us to do it during the original shutdown when we were doing Zoom meetings.
well, this
And
is-
people did reach out and they did speak.
I'm
And
just-
honestly, they don't have to identify themselves and give me their home address and social security number.
Right.
They could email me from bigbubbleburger@gmail. I wouldn't care. Is then they just want to speak. Okay, well, there's your access code.
Okay.
But I did, when we started the virtual meetings, I was concerned with that, and I did contact more than one of our servicing attorneys. And the consensus was that it is absolutely okay to have them contact you, email you for the access code to speak, but not as a requirement to attend or view the meeting that's live streamed.
What would be the problem with putting the access code on the website? Here's our meeting, such and such night. If you want, okay, so if they get the access code, then they would show up on the Zoom meeting, right? And I mean, if they were belligerent or anything stupid that, or not speaking out of turn, because there is still the sections for public comment, right? They could be muted until that chance for public comment.
That was a recommendation also, that we keep everybody out of the meeting except for the people who are in it to conduct the meeting. When it comes time for someone to speak at a virtual meeting, they're in the waiting room. So if I had 3 people, they would be in the waiting room. I would let them in one by one, and then they would give their public comment, and they would go back to
Okay, so if they had the
meeting.
access code, they could still be in that waiting room.
They could be in the
Okay,
waiting room.
is there a problem with putting the access code on the website the day of the meeting?
We don't even do it that way
Potentially,
anymore.
because
but-
you don't necessarily know who you're going to be letting in. If
Well, but
they
you
didn't.
don't know because
You're not supposed to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying is,
Well, let's think about when we used to have everyone in. They would go to the podium and they're supposed to give their
Yeah,
name.
I know, that's
And
what,
it was
and
they're
that's
not-
what makes
same
me
kind
kind of
of
weird
thing.
about it
But
is
they're not
if you're here in person, you tell your
Right.
name, address yet? I don't remember how they do that.
Well, technically you're supposed to, but we never.
Yeah,
never
so they
chose that.
mention their name and their city, Tecumseh, Raisin Township, whatever. And you can ask them to do that, but now they're saying you can't ask them to do that on the web. You got somebody from California just messing with us. You know,
Well, and
I
that
mean,
was
you know,
that was kind of where it all came from, because some of the initial meetings that had Zoom were hacked, and it was problematic, which is why they created it in the format that we have it.
okay.
That was a best practice as presented by the MASB. And then I checked with the other servicing attorneys other than the MASB just to get that good feeling about it, to make sure that we weren't going to violate OMA.
Right.
So that's how we got there. It was a best practice that was
I mean,
recommended.
still the people can, even right now, if they're interested, they're watching us. Okay. But to speak, you would have to literally have to be here in this case, or if we're on Zoom, they would have to have an access code to get in and talk.
Right.
And make their comments during those 2 sections.
Right. So we give them an access code beforehand. When we've had people speak, it's been, they usually over the weekend, they'll email me and I'll give them an email back with the access code for, usually I do that on Sunday.
Okay, so then the next step would be on the website. We're having a meeting Monday night. If you want to speak to anything on the agenda, which is here, then contact us for a access code.
Yeah. And that's
Done deal.
exactly how we do it. It's-
Well, then that's, I mean, it falls into line with what they're talking about here, right? And you're not asking the person's name, address, and all that kind of stuff.
And that's just keeping the meeting as secure as possible. So we don't open the door for people to come in, because when we have the meeting and I give people the ability to unmute themselves, if people are popping into the meeting or if they're in the waiting room and I let in the wrong person and they come in unmuted, that's the opportunity for profanity and screen share.
That you're able to go.
It just keeps it
Yeah.
more secure. That's all.
Yeah, okay.
Would you like me to reread the motion?
You got a motion and a second.
There's no more discussion? Then yes, please reread the motion.
I hereby move to accept and approve the resolution regarding the Open Meetings Act as recommended by Neola and as attached.
All right, Terry, we had a second on that, right?
Suzanne seconded.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Roll call vote. Tim?
No.
Ed?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion
Should I
passes.
just vote without being called?
That's okay. We know who you are.
Sorry.
All right, action item next. Purchase agreement.
I hereby move to approve the resolution regarding the sale of the board office building and approximately 1.82 plus or minus acres of property at 212 North Ottawa Street to Wuda Cooper Development, Inc. for the terms and conditions specified in the purchase agreement with a sale price of $30,000.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, unanimously approved. And the last action item.
I hereby move to approve the extended continuity of learning plan as presented and approved by the board in September 2020 and acknowledge that the district's pupil count process, which provides for two-way communication with students. The board also directs administration to post and submit said plan as required by MDE.
Do I have support?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion passes. That brings us on to our consent agenda for tonight. Ms. Brooks?
I hereby move to approve the consent agenda, which includes the following items: minutes from the Facilities and Grounds Committee meeting of October 9th of 2020, minutes from the regular board meeting of October 12th of 2020, and minutes from the Budget Committee meeting of October 12th, 2020.
Second.
Roll call. Tim?
Aye.
Ed?
Aye.
Suzanne?
Aye.
Becky?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Consent agenda is unanimously passed or accepted. Superintendent's report. Rick?
I've got 4 bullet points on there for you. Building Futures Committee finished its work for now. We had a meeting last week, and after reviewing the results from the community survey and going over that information with the Facilities Committee, it was determined that we would put that process on hold. We had been targeting a May election, 2021, and we've decided to roll that forward to November election of next year while we do some work with educating the community on some of our facility needs and some of the parts of the plan and how they work into the overall plan for facilities in Tecumseh. So the group is just kind of on hold for the winter. We'll bring it up again in the spring, and we'll try to meet all of the necessary timeline requirements for a November proposal, if the board decides that's what you would like to do with the information from the committee. They were going to come to you in November with a report on their plan. They'll probably now come to you in May for a November issue if you decide to move it forward. So that's on hold for now.
So when does that millage drop off the property tax rate?
It won't drop off. There's some things we're going to do, and Kelly's going to communicate with Nate Watson, who's one of our financial advisors, about pushing that forward also, so that it won't drop off till next year. There actually be a little bit of a savings in doing that to the district. Don't know exactly how that all works, but when we know better how it works, and we'll advise the board, because you're going to have to vote on that part of it. The first part of the 7.24 mils or something like that is scheduled to roll off for next winter's collection.
Wait a minute, okay, the taxes for the building, whatever, I thought, isn't that in the summer taxes and not the winter taxes?
This is,
I'm not sure which one it's
it,
on.
it's typically collected in the summer. Yes.
In the summer, that's what I meant. It's a summer tax.
That's the summer tax of the mills, but this is what this is something they're talking about with a different, way that they were doing it. I don't really understand what he was
Different
talking
accounting
about.
practice.
Well, no, but I mean, we were saying the first part, the 7.2 down to 5 would happen next year, but our taxes for both the school,
Right.
running of the schools, as well as the millage for the building
Shows up on
loan
the summer bill.
is the summer bill, not the winter
It was
bill.
after the winter bill. So that's the way I interpreted it, was they were going to start it after the next winter bill is when it would drop off. So then that would be coming around to that summer bill. That was the way I understood it.
Okay.
The grievance update, that we had some high school teachers who brought a grievance to Mr. Mills. It was forwarded to me. And before I could write my opinion on that grievance, I got an email from the MEA Uniserv director, Troy Beasley, that they were willing to postpone any action on that while they didn't really qualify it. I think they're happy with how things are going in the hybrid. And for right now, they have agreed to postpone that grievance at least until the 9th of November. So I'll have to make a determination at that point. TPS fundraiser for a student. Really want to get some information from Tim on this. There were some community members who rallied to have a spaghetti dinner fundraiser. And one of the people was your wife, and I know you helped out quite a lot too, and raised a pretty good chunk of money for that family. What were the total results?
So we sold 452 spaghetti dinners.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And I got to say, it ran really well with people picking them up. I thought we were going to have a line all the way out to Milwaukee, but it was like better than McDonald's. So,
It was spaghetti.
yeah. And then we've had a lot of monetary donations. So we have reached $10,000
Wow.
for
Awesome.
Juliana. So it was pretty cool. So golf course is going to donate all the food and labor and everything. So she's going to get the full $10,000.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
And then the last piece is the high school principal position. The posting actually closed today. And we have some interviews set up this week, and probably by the next meeting, should have a introduction of a new candidate.
All right.
So you've already started interviews then, you said?
No, they're this week, coming
Okay.
up this week.
Okay.
We'll have a round with, we're going to do a virtual interview the first round, just because I want to include more than 10 people on the panel. So we've got a larger group first round, and then the administrators will meet with the final candidates and make a decision either late this week or early next week.
Are any teachers on that committee or anything of that sort? Or
Yeah, the leadership team from the high school,
Okay.
so all the department heads, we have office staff, a counselor.
Okay.
So yeah, kind of cross section of the building for the first round.
How many candidates are there?
We're interviewing 4. I believe we had 9 apply.
Okay.
It's not an incredible time to be moving around as a building administrator. But we've got some experience, and some people we're interested in talking to.
We've got some big shoes to fill.
Absolutely. And we're inviting everybody to stick around after the meeting. We have individually wrapped and hermetically sealed safe desserts where we can all take off our masks and eat, because that's the protocol. just to celebrate Griff a little bit more. That's all I have.
All right, thank you, Rick. Item scheduled for next agenda. We'll have good news of some sort, but I don't know what it is yet. Discussion items, we will review the school board election that's occurring on the 3rd. We have our first budget revisions again on our agenda, and a substitute teacher pay rate will be a discussion item. We'll have some action items, I'm sure, although none on the agenda as of yet. And that'll bring us right to our public comment on any topic, do I have any takers? No. All right, then, board member comments and discussion. Any?
Well, last week, I wanted to thank you all for being here. It is so nice to walk in and see people here again. So, and Kevin kind of grabbed that and said it, but absolutely, I appreciate you being here. And it's so nice to see faces here again.
Half faces.
Even if it's half your face, I know who you are, most of you anyway. So it's just really nice to kind of have that feel again. So thank you for that. And I'll talk to Griff private. So
Good.
All right. Any other board member comment or discussion? All right, that brings us right to our adjournment. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
so moved.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8 o'clock.